Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is social media. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and or drop a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. But with that out of the way, social media. So this is very vague question or very vague topic, but actually that's just kind of the buzzword. The main focus is kind of determining whether I are actually representative of the average consumer or the average social media user, or we are just like boomers. I don't believe we've done a topic like this before, but in short, the vibe is TikTok is one of the biggest platforms now in the world. I mean, in a lot of other social media is. And not only do I not use it, and this is not for TikTok, this is a statement of superiority. For every other social media, it isn't. I have no hate towards every other social media except for TikTok. But we both, this is ironic because we're both using a lot of social media to advertise this podcast. But generally speaking, I don't understand the inclination to want to use social media. And you feel the same, right? Or what's your vibe?
基本的に私はインスタは使ってるけど、Twitter と Facebook は使ってないんよ。
What do you use Instagram for?
なんだろう。まずは情報収集っていうのもある。例えばさ、同じ大学の人でこの人がこういうことやってるんだとかさ、なんて言うんだろう。例えばあんまり普段話してない人でもさ、なんか同じグループとかになって話のきっかけになるじゃん。例えば、この間北海道行ってたねとか。そういうので、
You're using Instagram as a way to actually talk or to like connect with people in like your immediate social group.
そうだね。そう。なんかいい話の種になるかなとかあるし、自分でも結構写真とか結構撮ってランニングした時どれぐらいやったとかね。そういうのも結構投稿してんだけど。そうね。
That makes sense. And I think that's I know some people use Instagram. My brother uses Instagram. And I think that I guess I can understand it as a source of like actual communication. Do you use Instagram for like just like endless scrolling or just like browsing like content? You know what I'm saying? Like enjoying it as a form of content creation?
たまになんか興味を引いたものとかは見るな。なんか例えば私フォローしてるのが結構ランニングのなんか結構ランニングが趣味の人を結構フォローしてんだけど、それでなんかランニングのフォーム見たりとかあとなんかそうね、そういうのもなんか自分の趣味の人をフォローしてなんかちょっとアイデアもらうみたいなのはあるね。そう。
And what's your impression of the platform? Do you like Instagram then because you're using it, or what's?
正直ね、一時期ただ単にスクロールしてた時期もあって、それはね結構なんだろう、TikTok までは多分いかないと思うけど、すごい数の情報量じゃん。だって全然世界の誰も知らない人の情報とかバンバン目に入ってくるわけじゃん。で、その SNS とか、
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
そう、SNS とかなかった時ってさ、だいたい周りの例えば10人としようか。10人だけの情報しか知らないからさ、それはなんていうの、まだ耐えられるじゃん。その情報処理としては。けどさ、その SNS とか、SNS って言わないのか、英語で。ソーシャルメディアで、もう世界中のもう何億人の人の情報がさ、一気に入ってくるから、もう頭がパンクするわけよ。その情報処理が追いつかなくて。
Yeah. That
それ
makes
で、
sense.
そう。結構、なんて言うんだろう。情報は入っ ってるんだけど、でもなんか、satisfy されないみたいな。
Yeah, but
なんか
I would
空振ってる
actually.
感じ。うん。
So I might be wrong on this one, but my impression is that within your generation, because I am technically, I think, in the same generation as you, but it's debatable. Some people think that the millennials start in 1996. So I would say the majority think that millennial generation starts 1996. And I've seen some that say 1997. And I'm going to have to believe those because I'm one of those people, as I don't know if cliche is the correct term, but as frowned upon as it looks, who does not only not empathize with my generation, but actively has what I would call a hatred for my generation. And you know what? I empathize more closely with boomers than I do with the Zoomer generation. I personally, I hate TikTok for various reasons. We'll get into that. I generally I don't dislike other social medias as much. I mean, I'm not a fan of Twitter, but other social medias, I just don't understand the urge. I don't have, if I want to communicate with one of my friends, I just message them directly. And until I started texting in Japanese, I'd never used an emoji in my life. So I'd have my friends would say, I think we talked about this before actually, when we talked about notifications, but my friends would constantly tell me that I text like an old man and I have end with periods. And for me, it was always like if I needed, I'd only text or message somebody if my intention was to set up a plan or hang out with them. But outside of that, I never understood, especially more generalized like Twitter, TikTok, where you're basically talking into not a void, but there's an assumption that you're making that other people actually care what you're saying, if it's like a random opinion on Twitter or TikTok. And not only that, if you're not creating content, which on TikTok, the border between content and just a post is very vague in my opinion. Whereas in YouTube, for example, there's a clear line between everybody's a creator who's like posting. In TikTok, it's both the casual user and the like TikToker, whatever you want to call it. I don't believe there's a defined line. Everybody's kind of a TikToker. Not saying everybody makes content, but the barrier is incredibly low, which isn't inherently a bad thing. But because the platform is, I mean, I'm not. We'll get into that later. So at the very least, I'll say, do you think it's most common for? You said you use Instagram, and what else?
私はインスタしか使ってないよ。あと、まあ LINE か。LINE はでもどっちかっていうとあれは
Well,
メッ
line
セー
is
ジみたいな。
just yeah, message. I guess that is.
だから
I don't know if that's social media or not.
Instagram
But
だけだね。
is that the most common within your like circle around you or friends or whatever?
いや、みんな Twitter 使ってるね。Twitter も使ってる。
Oh, Twitter. Not what about TikTok?
TikTok わかんない。使ってるのかな。まあ、使ってる人はいると思うよ。まあ、そういう話はあんま出てこないからわかんないけど、使ってるとは思うのかな。
Because I've heard that TikTok is like comprises of it's like technically the largest social media in the world, apparently. But and
まあ、
I think
私アニュージュアルだから。
yeah, my friends, actually not my friends who live like one sector of my friends all use TikTok. Thankfully, one of them uninstalled it that I learned today. So shout out to that friend. But the other friends, I believe, still use TikTok. And I have another sector of friends that are more similar to me who don't use really any social media, like any at all. Like not even like YouTube. They're just completely off the grid. But yeah, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, when I went to Japan in 2018, I remember there actually being a guy who came in our cultural fest who stepped on the stage and literally yelled, he's like, TikTok yatteru hito! And got everybody to raise their hands. And there was surprisingly high amount of people using
そうなんだ。
TikTok. Yeah. And that was in 2018 when TikTok, because there was an evolution of that.
かなり相当の人。
So, I mean, before I get into do you have any opinions on TikTok specifically? Because you already know I have a rant. But
そうね、まあ。
positive, negative. What are your feelings about each social media platform?
Each?
We'll go.
待って。
Yeah, we'll go the main. So we'll go YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. How about?
Facebook.
Am I missing any?
じゃあ YouTube。じゃあまず YouTube からいこうか。YouTube は私すごいいいと思う。なんでかっていうとさ、なんて言うんだろう。英語に興味を持ったのもさ、YouTube で結構洋楽とか聞いてて、私、なんて言うんだろう。興味持った時って、結構ワンダイレクションとかすごい流行ってたのよ。で、ミュージックビデオとか見て、あと歌詞とか見たり、で、もうそっから英語興味持って、ラングエッジチャンネルとか結構見てたのね。そう。で、
Yeah.
まあ、いろいろなんて言うんだろう。トランスクリプトとかもあるから、まあ、それ追いながら、なんていうのまあ、リスニングみたいなとかもしてたり、なんかそういった面で結構勉強になったし、YouTube なかったら多分興味を持ててなかったと思う、英語に。
Yeah, I think that we had this conversation actually. I feel like we have I'm having deja vu.
したかな
But yeah, I mean, I have a very similar reason for. Oh, sorry. Go through the other one. So that was YouTube. YouTube positive. How about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok?
Facebook ね、正直、なんかわかんない。よくわかんないんだよね、あれ。なんか、私なんていうんだ、所属してる団体があって、それの、仕事のために一個アカウントはあるんだけど、でも使ってないのよ、自分のために。
Yeah.
そうそう。だから、なんか、宣伝のためにしか使ってないから、どうやって人が使ってるのかよくわかってないけど、まあ、ツイッターよりはまだいいかなって感じかな。
Okay, so that means that you have bad feelings about Twitter? What are the Twitter opinions?
というか、ツイッターは、なんか思ったけど、なんていうのみんなつぶやく、そう、ツイッターで日本だとつぶやくとか言うのよ。投稿するときにね、ツイートをつぶやくみたいな言うんだよ。そう。
Yeah.
で、つぶやきっていうのはさ、もう一日に何十回、何百回とか投稿する人いいんだよ。
Wait, 何百回
あるのわかんないけど、まあ何十回とか投稿するのよ。
Yeah,
人によっては。そう。でさ、いちいち、もしその人が友達だったら、いちいちその人の一日に何十回も、つぶやいてんのを見ないといけないっていうのが、すごい多分ストレスになると思うんだよ。自分にとってはね。まあ、それが面白いと思う人もいるかもしれないけど、まあ、自分にとっては、自分が望んでなくても、自分がフォローしてる人の、投稿がどんどん来るわけじゃん。
Yeah.
そうなると、見たくなくてもタイムラインで出てくるから結構メンタル的に疲れるのかなっていうのは思
う。Yeah. So in terms of like endless scrolling where you're not like getting anything out of it.
そうだね。そうそうそう。
And then you already talked about Instagram. So is it TikTok?
TikTok ね。あと。
Yeah.
で TikTok はもうなんか最強のメンタル破壊マシーンみたいな感じだと思うんだよ。なんでかっていうとマジで反感食らいそうで怖いわ。さっき本当に調べて15秒らしいね。15秒の動画で。で、15秒から1分なのかなそう。で、まあ、楽しいじゃん。見てると。やっぱり。でさ、まあいいや、楽しいとしてよ。
Yeah, okay. We'll assume it's
で、
fun.
そこまではいいんだけど、15秒だからさ、何個でも見れちゃうわけよ。で、自然にどんどんさ、おすすめっていうか、その人に合ったニーズで、その次の動画がさ、どんどんエンドレスに再生されるから、意識しなくても、次ちょっと面白いじゃんと思って見てて、また次またも面白いの来る。で、またさらに来る。ってなると、も なんて言うんだろう。ずっと、水かけられてるようなもんだよ。
Yeah. It's
そうそう
being,
そう。
what's it called? I forgot about waterboarding is the
なのか
English
な
expression for that, where they
あ、
torture
そうそ
people
うそ
by
う。
putting like a wet towel over their face and they're upside
そう
down
そうそう。
and they try to
そ
breathe.
う。
Yeah.
あ、そうそうそう。
そう
なんかもうやめたいと思ってても、もうそこにあるから自然に受け付けるしかないんだよ。
I don't think I would call it waterboarding though, because water is pure and clean. I think it'd be more like sludge boarding.
じゃあ、
Like
もうあれだね、
they're
毒
used
物
to,
みたいな。
yeah, you're just
で、
getting
あ
dumped with it.
と、そうね、もう一つは、TikTok ってあれ、踊ってるだけじゃんって思っちゃうんだけど。まあ他にもコンテンツあるよ。例
I
えばクッ
think
キ
it's
ングだったり。
evolved a little. I mean, it's changed. I'm not even gonna say evolved. It is changed. I won't even imply a progression into a better sphere, but it definitely has changed.
うん。そうね、まあいろんなコンテンツがある中で、なんて言うんだろう。そういうの、結構踊ってる人がさ、TikToker でさ、有名になったりするじゃん。
Yeah.
で、なんか、なんだろう。何も得られなくないって思っちゃうんだけど。なんかね、申し訳ないで、ちょっとごめんなさいね、TikTok ラバーの人、マジで。なんか、
Yeah.
ちょっと。
Okay. So I'll start with my
Yes,
yeah, we'll
I
start
ran
from
to-
YouTube because
hi.
I feel like YouTube. I mean, I'm extremely biased, but I will be biased because that's how it is. So yes, I love YouTube. I think it's great. Mainly because I think there's the focus that YouTube has on primary long form content, which they do have YouTube Shorts now and other stuff, which is like whatever. But I think maybe it also has to do with the history of YouTube, which started. I mean, all these these social medias are a form of self-expression, but I feel like YouTube, mainly because of its maybe structure, a long-form content, and it rewards like a long. Now currently it rewards a long viewing time and other stuff like that. But generally speaking, the type of content that tends to be produced, even by like the largest to smaller creators, tends to be either like obviously there's like entertainment, and then there's like entertainment, educational content, and everywhere in between. But normally with all of those, their videos tend to have a degree of purpose outside of the entertainment directly. So whether it be, and I'll get into how social media, because I think obviously social media other social medias are used to send a message or whatever, but I'll get into that. But I think there's a really healthy balance between, like, for one, the general, like the longer form content that asks more from you. You ask more of your time, it asks more of your focus. And I think YouTube has an extremely strong sphere in all other aspects aside from just entertainment, from both being like a reference is like a kind of anytime you have any problem, you can kind of look up on YouTube and find a full tutorial, to like longer like breakdowns on history, literally like obviously tutorials, everything. It's so deep. It is basically just like a resource for everything. And on top of that, it also has entertainment. Obviously, there have been creators that have make shorter sketch videos on YouTube. But I also, on top of that, like how I mean, this didn't used to be the case. There used to be something called a video reply, which is actually very similar to how Instagram kind of works, but it kind of died. But I like the nature of like the video is the focus, and then after the video, there's more full discussions in the comment section about it, separating the like experience of watching from the conversation. And so with that in mind, let me move over to let's go with TikTok, because that's kind of the one I have the most beef with. Conversely, and I'm not saying YouTube does not have unhealthy or non-productive or bad for children content. It has a history of that. But I do not think that the platform lends itself to that as much as TikTok. So with TikTok, like as you said, like 15 to a minute videos, which is already fundamentally, I think, is a bad thing, because it's rewarding I mean, this isn't just my opinion, but I'm pretty, like, there have been like studies after studies that are showing how, as like a whole, not even only between children, but I think literally almost every age range who uses, so this is just social media in general, but I think it has to do with TikTok. TikTok can be blamed for at least a large section of this. Like the attention span of people is going down. That's not even talking about all the other effects of social media that have to do with, like, I think we did talk about this, but whatever. I'm sorry if you guys have heard our takes on this already. Sometimes you forget. But yeah, there's also obviously like the negative health effects that we talked about in terms of the addiction to the phone, or the negative health effects that are correlated with your like self-esteem, especially with women. That's a huge impact that social media, even I think Instagram and other stuff have played a role into. But with TikTok, it's like multifaceted, where it's short content that gets repeated over and over again. And in that sense, it's kind of like, so the term meme, before it became like a joke, used to mean like, it's like a concept that is very easily to exchange, or like that, not exchange, but to propagate, sort of. I think it's like the core of an idea, I think, is what a meme is. I might be wrong, but basically TikTok, every single video is extremely addictive by nature. It is extremely repetitious, and it is very short. So for our brains, that's like dopamine candy, especially given that to get people's attention, especially, and I've indirectly seen a lot of TikToks, if you only have like 15 seconds to work with and you're fighting with everybody else, you have to make it as engaging as possible. So I see, regardless of the type of content just off the bat that's being created there, it like has to be like dopamine adrenaline shots, and those people take them over and over again, and they have an algorithm that is apparently extremely efficient at giving people stuff that they like and will continue to click and scroll on. So that's already a problem that I think is huge. Just the fact, you were watching a video earlier, which I thought made a very good point, which is, and this is something I guess we'll probably talk more about later, but sometimes there's this notion that I've heard where they'll say something like, well, social media really isn't real life. And it isn't real life. Obviously, if you weren't on social media, you would still be alive or whatever. But I also think that's extremely disingenuous, because I think and this is what the video you were watching was stating, was in terms of raw time spent consuming social media, people spend more time on social media than the majority of like their time eating, no, not the majority, but then more time than they spend eating food and drinking water across their entire lives, which is ridiculous. On top of that, social media is used to, obviously, like what we're doing right now, communicate with other people. It's used for business. It's used for, I don't know, like advertising, anything. If you're doing any sort of job, social media is insanely relevant. In the music industry, using a TikTok is almost necessary at this moment, is what it sounds like. I think we talked about that previously. And also, if you want to be known just in general, or have any sort of following, or maybe even you're saying connect with your friends, social media is crucial. So if you don't have social media, in your way, you're ostracized from the majority of the world, and even your local contacts and financial interests nowadays. So I think it's extremely disingenuous to say, well, social media isn't the real world, so whatever. I don't want to get into this conversation, but just as a quick aside, that is partially one of the reasons I don't like social media platforms being as like free to ban whoever they want, with no retribution at the moment, because that's a whole separate conversation. But they have this like power to ban people, and I'm not talking about any specific person or whatever. I'm just saying in general that like, the example, they banned the president of the United States. Granted, he did a bunch of stuff that like warranted it, but I still don't think the president of the United States or former president being banned off is something a private company should be able to decide. Because normally people will say in response to that, well, it's just social media. But it really isn't just social media, because if it was just social media, they wouldn't care that he's banned. But in reality, they do care because they know how powerful social media is. But anyways, given that huge influence in people's lives, and the amount people spend on social media, and the addictive nature that like the dopamine rushes it's putting into you, on top of that, the majority of TikTok is what I would describe as pure, like, mindless entertainment. There are some educational channels. There are some, I don't know, like, I guess I'd call it like drama is the best I would talk, or like talking about some social discussions or whatever. But since everything is so tiny, you are condensing any discussion, even the most educational discussion, into its most, like, maybe consumable form, but you're barely spreading any information. Like, it is most topics that require a deep understanding require more than a 15 to 1 minute explainer where somebody drops their tea about whether something's a bad idea. And on top of that, and Twitter has this problem too, you basically are encouraging a type of content that I could call it like a ping-pongy type thing. So instead of having to come up with a full refutation for somebody says this is a bad idea, the people who think that you're dumb can just respond with a quick just a quick one sentence or TikTok reply, and instead of forming an actual argument against what you're saying, and that'll be perceived as something that's really good and popular. But yeah, sorry, I went on a whole rant, but hopefully we both covered it. We talked quite about it here. If we already covered this before, apologies, but recent news came up and we decided we want to talk about this. So let us know what you guys think about TikTok and other social media in the comments below.
We are back. Yay.
戻りました.
Yay. So here in the middle section, we're going to talk about life updates. So, but first I want to start, and I want to announce that we got more than 100 subscribers. Yeah, on YouTube. Thank you guys.
Yatta!
Yay. Yeah, like we're so happy and we appreciate your support.
ありがとうね、みんな。
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much.
100登録者 ?100 登録、なんて日本語で
100人の登録者。
100人の登録者。
Yep.
嬉しい。
Yeah. Thank you so much, you guys.
数少ないんだけど、一応私たちにとって。
Yeah.
向上心、これから。
Yeah.
もっとできるように頑張ります。そう。
Exactly. And also, we are filming another video for main channel right now.
あいみの背景は実はちょっとネタバレになってるんだけど、
so this, usually
そのトピックについて話せない。ただ。
Okay. Yeah. Let's keep it as a secret.
背景について話せるんだけど、詳しく話さない方がいいかもしれない。
Yeah. For some reason, like usually I use my natural wallpaper color on this podcast channel, but yeah, I'm using white background, so something is coming up soon.
なんでしょう
Yeah. Take a guess. Yeah.
考えを教えてください。
Anyways, yeah.
次の動画をどうなるか。
Yeah.
今の推測できない。でも頑張ってる。録音しなくちゃいけないシーンがいくつかあると思うので、編集もしなくちゃいけないので、時間かかるんだけど、これから動画がアップロードされる可能性が高い。
Yeah. So, 楽しみにしてください。
そう。
Yeah. で、
これが私のアップデートになるんだけど、今日、たくさんのビニールハウス作ってるという話も、多分何回も話してたんだけど、その収穫の、なんていうか、最後のところの時期に、近くにある、店が、植物とかを売る店が、何でしたっけ？半額？全部半額になっちゃう。その植物とか。
Happy.
ほとんどの人がビニールハウス持ってないので、そのなんか今の時点で、8月でしたっけ今は。そう。
Yep.
植物を買うと、その冬になんかすぐになっちゃうので、ちょっと、なんていう、コスパが低い。しかし、
that's why, yeah,
私
you
の場合
get
はビニールハウス
discount.
持
Yeah.
ってるので、その半額の植物をなんかもっと長い間に育てられるので、結構実はコスパが高い、私にとって。でも、それで今日、普段に高いもの、けど私が安く買ったものは、a 7-pot douglas pepper 7ポットドーグラペッパー、世界一じゃないんだけど、その最も辛いペッパーの一つを唐辛子、
Okay.
チョコレートになる。なんかチョコレート、なんていうか、普通のなんか Trinidad Scorpion 知ってんの？その Carolina Reaper とか。
Yeah, Carolina Reaper is like the spiciest
そう。
pepper in the world, right?
それと同じような辛さなんだけど、なんかチョコレートみたいになってる。その色が。でも、甘いらしい。そのノートで書いてあるのは、なんか、a tangy sweet flavor if you can handle the spice。で、
So like,
ハンドルできるかどうかわかんないんだけど、一応楽しみにしてる。
sounds interesting, though. Yeah.
でも、これにちょっと関連してる話なんだけど、私がこのこのピーマンの話もしてたっけわかんない。私が今日思ってたのが、その韓国と中国が両方辛い料理があるのに、日本では完全にない。なぜ？
That's right. Yeah. That is right.
なんか歴史的に韓国と、中国と日本は結構関わってるので、その戦争とか、いっぱいあったわけじゃないんだけど、一応なんか私たちの料理が、私たちというか韓国と中国の料理が日本と混ざってると思ってるんだけど、そういう可能性が高いと思ってたんだけど、一応例えばラーメンに関して、なんか中国では自分のラーメンでしたっけ？なんか LIAMEN？ ラーメンの発音に似てるんだけど違う。でも中国語の麺、その料理に関しては結構高いじゃなくて辛いのもあるらしい。韓国も同じ。
キムチ。
そう。キムチだけじゃなくて、その韓国のラーメンもかなり辛い。実は全部辛い。韓国の料理では。
I guess
どうなった？なぜ？
I guess like in Japan, we put like a main focus on dashi or like umami kind of stuff. Like, yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, so yeah, our main focus is that we're not like we don't have like spiciness in our food, maybe.
いや、私があゆみはこの答え知らないかもしれないけど、私が気に入ってるのは、なんか歴史的に、なんかほとんどの、日本以外の全然辛いもの食べない国ある？言い返すと。なんか全然食べない。
Thai food is spicy. Yeah. And other like Middle East, East Asian,
そう、
right?
それも辛い。
Yeah. They have spicy foods. So yeah, wow.
アメリカでも辛いのもある。
Yeah.
イギリスはその辛いものがそんなにないと思うんだけど、一応なんか、なぜ辛いものがなんか自然に生まれるんだけど、日本の場合に関しては、その国全体では、いや、辛いものは断る、拒否みたいなことになってます。
Actually, we do have wasabi. It's a little bit different spiciness.
そう。
Yeah, but
でも、
yeah.
いい例文だ、それ。なぜわさびが好きなのにほとんどの辛いものが嫌い？
Because it's like a different type of spiciness.
キャプセイシンじゃない。
Yeah.
この話もしてたと思う。やばい。
ツンとする。
何回も同じ話してるんだけど、めっちゃやばい。このキャプセイシンの話絶対にしたことある。でも、ほとんどの人はこういう話聞いたことないと思う。
I don't remember.
ごめんなさい、視聴者。まあ、視聴者じゃなくて、リスナー。でも YouTube で見てるなら視聴者になる。
Yeah. But yeah, we can talk about that. Maybe sometime.
この、もっと詳しくこのことについて話せるから。気に入ったら、こういう歴史について話すかもしれない。食べ物の歴史。まあ、日本の。
Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
It's the final section. And Ayami, what should the listeners do in the final section?
はい、最後のセクション聞く前に何をするかってもちろん、チャンネル登録、そして E メール送ってね。
Where should they send an email to?
メールは lazyfluency@gmail.com までお待ちしております。
Yeah, and this week we did not get an email, but we did get some comments, which I sourced all together because we had a very important question to answer, which was, does beer taste good, or is it just the alcohol, the feeling? And so I posed a question last week, which I swear I put down here somewhere. Here it is. Yeah. Would you drink beer if it wasn't alcoholic? So some people pointed out that non-alcoholic beer exists, which we talked about in our last episode. We're not saying non-alcoholic beer doesn't exist. We're saying the exact same vibe as you get with normal beer, except it doesn't give you the effect. So in that sense, it's not alcoholic. Because for example, we got a comment this week that talks about how non-alcoholic beer does not actually taste the same. And so we have a few here. It seems like the majority opinion is aligning with what I was saying, which is beer doesn't actually taste good. It's more about or I guess to be honest, it's would you drink beer if it wasn't alcoholic? No, seems to be the majority of the answers. What's your thoughts about this, Ayami? About the beer situation?
何がどういうこと?
Just your general thoughts about the replies we got. We'll read them in a second, but.
まあ、なんかはっきりとした答え来ないよね。でも。ビールはみんな好きみたいだね。
What? What's exact? But I mean, they like beer with alcohol, but so we're looking at a few here. We got a nah, N-A-H, nah. That is a no. There's a negative. They would not drink beer if it wasn't alcoholic. And then we got an alcoholic-free beer exists, but that wasn't part of the claim, and they did not actually state that they would drink it or not. So that's a neutral. And then we got a no, I like beer with alcohol. And the only person that gave us a positive was a channel veteran staple commenter, Shockox.
VIP? Yeah.
VIP commenter, who had, I guess I'll just read his thoughts real quick because it's quite nuanced actually. So I would absolutely drink beer if it weren't alcoholic, if that didn't change the taste. Unfortunately, non-alcoholic beer just doesn't quite have that taste. I'm one of those odd people who likes the taste, but not much the alcoholic loss of control thing. So I'll drink beer really slow to stay sober, but enjoy the taste. And I'll sip at vodka really slowly to taste it without losing my brain function. That, and I don't drink at all on the weekdays, because even one bit of alcohol in the afternoon will trash my sleep that night. Even then, I still barely drink on weekends too. Like once every few months, and it takes me about a month to work through a 12-pack of beer because of my very slow drinking. Back in my wine days, it was the feeling. I'd still drink wine though. This stuff is good. I also left this is in the separate less of the comment was referring to some other part of the episode or previous episode, but I don't even know how to feel about this response. It doesn't seem like if you drink, okay, for example, if I asked myself, do I like milk? I wouldn't have all these caveats. Yes, I like milk. Do I like smoothies? Yes. Okay, Ayumi, do you like coffee? Oh, this is a better question. Would you drink coffee if it didn't have the caffeine?
Yeah, I do.
That's what I'm talking about.
だっ
Easy.
て、フレーバーが好きなんだよ。別にカフェイン取るために飲んでるわけじゃないからさ。
That's what I'm saying. And now all these people seem to be jumping over. The most direct answer we got was basically like, no non-alcoholic beer tastes good, so I can't drink it. And I'm saying if you like both wine and beer, which both happen to have alcohol, and the non-alcoholic versions don't seem to taste the same, something tells me that the taste and feeling are a little bit intertwined.
そうだね。だって、やっぱりでも、なんとなくわかるよ。ワインとブドウジュース、どっちもブドウから作られてんじゃん。でも、
I mean, not all, well, wine is specifically, but you can have rice wine, for example, which is not grapes. Shout out to sake. That's kind of what sake is.
いいよ、じゃあもうグレープから作られてるワイン、レッドワインとしてよ、そう。
Or, yeah.
で、なんとなく、やっぱアルコール入ってた方が。
You did it, the katakana thing. from my video.
アルコールが入ってた方がやっぱりちょっと風味は変わるんだよ。だからそういった面で私はワインはちょっと違うかなって感じはする、ブドウジュースとは。でもアルコールを取るために飲むんじゃなくて、風味が違うから飲むって感じかな。飲むとしたらそう。
I mean, with wine, probably. I don't know, but there definitely is a degree to the upper. I think you might be being brainwashed by the upper class vibe that wine has. It's it's just a more cultured way to get blasted. You know what I'm saying? Although obviously wine does have a taste people like, supposedly. I was watching but in terms of history, so some wine history here. There's a channel called Told in Stone, which does videos on Roman history and Greek history as well. I recommend checking it out. But one of the videos he does is on wine, like Roman wine, and he talked about how it was kind of terrible quality. The wine was really bad because there was no refrigeration, and they put it in these big jugs and it'd ferment and whatever. And the good wine was just wine that you could drink without being too disgusted by, that would get you drunk. So from the very inception of wine, I feel like there's been this emphasis on the even wine, like I said, the drunk part. But I think that society makes it seem more cultured and acceptable to get drunk with wine and act like you actually are any different from the guy who's getting blasted with beer. For example, think about sake. In America, you might have a different, obviously, perception of sake because you're from Japan. But in America, sake is seen as this. It's that's sake. He's not getting shit-faced. He's enjoying sake, a delectable drink where all the people, he's cultured. It's Japanese. The Japanese are healthy. They drink their sake. That's actually a very funny conversation. I feel we can talk about the Japanese being, there is a degree of truth to that, but that's a whole separate conversation. But in reality, as we know, the majority of people aren't drinking a moderate amount of sake and enjoying it with their pairing of, sushi. They are getting blackout, wasted, and falling asleep in Tokyo trains.
まあどうなんだろうね。結局さ、アルコールで酔うのが好きなのか、アルコールの、風味が好きなのかっていうさ、答えはさ、結局来てないよね。
I mean,
多
if
くは。
we did not have a sufficient amount of replies,
まあそう
maybe
ね、
more
そうだ
people
か
should
ら。
have left a comment to lazyfluency@gmail.com. lazyfluency@gmail.com. I'm looking at you right now. Fred, who's listening. Mark, who's listening right now. You guys also better drop an Apple review now that I'm mentioning it here. We still haven't got the review. But we appreciate it. We appreciate the YouTube support. We appreciate the people listening. And also, thanks to just generally some random some Instagram account shout us out. We appreciate that.
ああね、そうだ。これ言った方がいいのかな。
if you remember the name.
ちょっと名前忘れちゃったけど、忘れちゃってごめんなさいね。でも、インスタで、なんか、おすすめの、日本語習ってる人におすすめの、なんか、教材みたいなのでちょっと紹介してもらって、で、ね、びっくりした。なんか、いきなり来て、と思って。ありがとうございます。
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. More people write about us in your blogs. We love it.
ね、豆腐風もあ
we'll
った
give you a
し。
shout out.
そうだね。ありがとうございます。もっともっと。
For the conversation about what's it called? Actually, hold up. There was one thing I wanted to talk about while we're still talking about this beer conversation. I noted it because I wasn't able to talk about it last week. And this is as good as time as any, which is one of my main reasons for not really being into beer. And it is the effect it has on hanging out with people. I think I mentioned earlier that the majority of my friends drink, and every time they hang out, they need to bring beer. So aside from the fact that you have to be drunk to enjoy spending time with other people, which I think is a little weird, being the friend who, if they know I do drink, then, so when I'm there, at the very least, even though my friends don't like it, they have to bring it back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? There's some stuff that I'm like kind of I hold everybody in check. Because the things I want to do normally require being like, because I'm into a lot of more hardcore board games and other stuff like that, where you actually require quite a lot of mental capacity to do the activity. And so if you're completely like blackout drunk, you just won't be able to play. And so by me being the one boring friend, I'm able to actually make sure when I'm hanging out with my friends that we're actually all mentally there. But if I gave away the last pillar of soberness, then it would just turn into a full debauchery. And I actually had a friend who today I was talking to who invited me. He said that he goes to this like a nature camp kind of thing every year, and he said, well, I'd invite you to go as well, but like everybody there he described it as a debauchery. He said it's just a debauchery for 3 weeks or for 3 days, which is basically like people, I don't know what debauchery is in Japanese. It's kind of like going crazy, and like musaboru kana, like going in your like desires, and committing sin, I think is also an implication of debauchery. But yeah, so he said, so because of that, I probably wouldn't be down to go. Well, he said I'd probably like the debauchery, but I probably wouldn't be drinking. And then, yeah, I had to reply, which this something happens all the time. A lot of other people think I'm uncomfortable with them drinking, or that if they're drinking and I'm not drinking, it makes them feel bad. But I mean, everybody around me drinks, so I don't mind it at all. I just personally don't like every single interaction I'm having with people to be centered around them drinking. This was also a problem when Juul was really big, where literally every one of my friends needed, like they would stop, like we'd stop whatever we're doing for like a 5-minute Juul break. It was absurd. Like straight up, they'd run out of like, one of them ran out of like their fluid and had to go buy some. And I was like, bro, you can't wait 30 minutes until we're done. And he's like, no, because there's nicotine in there.
まあね、私もなんか友達前なんだけど、なんで飲み会するのかっていうなんか話をしてね。で、一つなんか面白い意見があったんだけど、なんか人っていうかま 普段あんまり喋らない人でも、アルコールが入ることによって、面白い話が聞けるから、まあ、お飲み会は楽しいかもしれないみたいな、そういう意見あって、それはでもなるほどなって思った。まあ、そういう面もあるんだな、みたいな。
Wait, there are two implications there. One is the implication that you can't hear interesting conversations outside of a nomikai.
なんか
Unless she meant funny. I guess that would be funny if everybody's like shit-faced. There probably is a funniness to that.
まあね、いやいや、なんて言うんだろう。普段ちょっと、なんて言うのちょっとガードが高くて、あんまり自分のこと話さない人とかでも、アルコール入ると、
It's a social lubricant.
そう。っていう面もあるんじゃないのっていう話はあって、まあ、そういう面もあるかもしれないねとは思った。だから完全に。
Yeah, the problem is that in Japanese culture, it's not a social lubricant. It's more like a water slide.
Water slide.
People jumping, like people. Dude, I always told you. Not only was it like my host father, but we also went out with one of my professors at the end of a term to go drinking, and he was just like completely wasted. He brought us out. It was hilarious. He brought us all out. He offered to pay. We all got a bunch of stuff. He just got wasted, and then he checked his wallet, didn't have enough money, and then we needed to pay for it. To split it with him.
ウォータースライドね、確かにね。まあだからね、なんて言うんだろうね。あと、もう一つとしてはさ、なんかお酒がないと話せないと思ってるじゃん、みんな。ちょっと緊張してるからお酒飲もう。
That's a personal problem.
だからそう思ってるところが、なんか別にお酒なくたってさ、なんていうの、緊張解く方法はあるしさ、お酒が入ったからといってさ、完全に緊張取れるかもわかんないから、絶対なんていうのプラセボ効果っていうのかな実際薬でさ、効果がなくてもさ。
Yeah, you know what that is? Yeah, it's people taking aspirin for their, they're taking aspirin for like, I don't know, getting a paper cut, sort of.
そう。
They're addicted on it, except aspirin's not as dangerous as alcohol, which leads to, I'm not even talking about the deaths like of alcoholism and all the other impacts of that.
だからね、そう信じ込んでるとこもあるっていうのも、まあ一部あるし、まあでも実際さ、トカチェブになるのは、まあ、あり得るから、まあ、いろんな面がありますね。はい。
Something that I think is funny is that this episode is like in stark, our previous two episodes were kind of like, or like previous one and the one before kind of were like showing how I have I'm basically like a kid in terms of the Japanese mindset. This episode was me being the square. I was the no drinking. What was the other thing? No social media. I was the perfect Asian parent. No drinking, no social media. What are you doing? That's bad for you.
そうだね。ちょっとペアレントとしては絶対持ちたくない感じだな。
Yeah. But then I'm also down with the sweets, and my perception of being an adult is a childlike one. So. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or just looking for some general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com. We might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
And Ayami.
Signing off. Jane.
Jane.
Please give us an Apple review. I'm begging at this point.
そうだね。よろしく。